What if the pull you feel is not a flaw but a summons? What if every restless night, every quiet wrestle with desire, is not a sign of weakness, but the unmistakable proof that something greater is calling you higher? From the outside, it might look like repression, but this is not about repression at all. It is about transmutation, about rising into your true power, not by silencing your desire, but by understanding it, honoring it, and ultimately mastering it. Because if you are one of the chosen ones, your sexual desire is not random. It is a gate, a final trial before your full awakening. And the moment you begin to see it this way, everything changes. Every time you refuse to release your power for nothing, you are not merely saying no to temptation, you are saying yes to destiny. You are gathering your strength back into yourself, turning scattered sparks into a single blazing current. Your mind sharpens, your body steadies. Your spirit begins to hum with a quiet voltage the world cannot explain but cannot ignore. This is the hidden power of abstinence. It is not about counting days. It is about reclaiming the authority that was always meant to be yours. It is the first step toward a presence so magnetic, so undeniable, that even silence begins to carry weight. And once you taste that stillness, once you feel that gravity settle into your bones, you will know the battle was never just about resisting desire. It was about discovering who you truly are. Only now, after you have felt that truth, comes the invitation. This message is not about repression, it's about transmutation. About rising into your power, not by silencing your desire, but by understanding it, honoring it, and ultimately, mastering it. If these words resonate, let the world and the spirit realm know that you are stepping into the end of old cycles. Type 99 in the comments. Why 99? Because it signals the breaking of shame, the death of confusion, and the birth of spiritual clarity. When you type it, you are not just adding a number, you are aligning. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. Not for algorithms, but for your own soul. This is a space where we don't avoid the truth. We walk straight into it with reverence and power. Stay with me until the end of this journey. The fire inside you is not here to burn you down. It is here to awaken the divine within you. Before a man ever wins a battle with his body, he must first confront the battlefield no one else can see, the quiet, relentless war inside his own mind. Lust does not merely touch the surface. It builds a fog, a film that settles over thoughts until clarity becomes a memory. You can appear disciplined on the outside and still be blinded within. This is why even men who look strong, who seem successful, walk through life feeling strangely lost. They are not lazy. They are not broken. They are fogged. It begins subtly. A glance that lingers, a scroll that lasts a second too long, an image that plants itself behind the eyes. Tiny moments, seemingly harmless, create a constant static until focus phrase, motivation slips, and the voice of God is drowned beneath 1,000 smaller sounds. The danger is not only in the images you see, but in the endless current of craving they ignite. Each click trains the brain to expect the next, scattering attention like leaves in a storm. But when you interrupt that pattern, when you cut the signal that feeds the flesh and starves the soul, something almost miraculous starts to happen. At first it's subtle. You wake up one morning and realize your thoughts are sharper, as if someone opened a window in a room you didn't know was stale. Colors look deeper. Time moves slower. Conversations feel alive again. Then the deeper shift arrives. Ideas come, not the recycled echoes you used to borrow from others, but fresh blueprints, original visions that carry weight. You begin connecting the hidden logic of your own life. Why certain doors stayed shut, why some detours protected you, why pain itself had a pattern. The puzzle pieces of your past start to lock into place, and with that clarity comes a new kind of sight. People's intentions become transparent. Manipulation loses its power. Habits that once enslaved you suddenly appear in plain view for what they are. Traps you now step around without effort. You start to recognize the voice of the spirit, not as a distant whisper, but as a steady frequency guiding every decision. Understand this: such clarity is feared. Systems built on distraction cannot survive a mind that sees. A man who has conquered his urges cannot be steered by cheap rewards or hidden chains. He becomes, in the oldest sense of the word, a seer, one who perceives beyond appearances, who walks with the quiet confidence of someone awake. This is the invisible war of the mind. Win it and the body follows. Lose it and every other victory is temporary. But when you reclaim this territory, when you guard your thoughts like sacred ground, you become more than disciplined. You become dangerous to the darkness itself. Clarity of mind is only the threshold. Once a man has broken the fog and reclaimed his thoughts, something far greater begins to stir, an authority that cannot be taught, only forged. It is the quiet strength that heaven itself acknowledges, the weight that enters a room before a single word is spoken, the intangible presence that changes an atmosphere without any announcement. In the spiritual realm, there are no shortcuts, no titles without trials. Crowns are never handed to those who have not carried their own cross. Every hidden victory, every night of silent resistance, is a brick in a foundation that cannot be shaken. When a man lays down the most primal part of himself, not because he is forced, not because someone is watching, but because he chooses to, he becomes more than disciplined. He becomes marked. Each decision to stay pure is recorded, not on paper, but in eternity. The unseen world takes note. Angels recognize the sound of consecration. Darkness recognizes the absence of compromise. This is not the authority of charisma or charm. It cannot be borrowed from mentors, purchased with money, or achieved by clever words. It is not earned through applause, talent, or image. Heaven moves for one reason alone: sacrifice. When God sees a man who denies himself in secret, who guards his purity when no one is watching, he entrusts that man with a different kind of power. It is a power that carries a frequency, an unspoken resonance that causes rooms to still and hearts to listen. Words spoken from such a vessel carry a force that shakes atmospheres. Prayers whispered in the dark ripple across generations. Chains break, doors open, hearts turn, even the opposition recognizes it. Darkness does not cower with cinematic fear. It reorganizes. Forces that once attacked directly begin to circle, to strategize, to distract, because they understand that a man who has conquered his own flesh cannot be conquered by anything else. They sense the unshakable fire, the unyielding stillness, and they know the cost of a direct assault. This is why temptation often shifts shape once you gain authority. It becomes subtler, quieter, more polished. It no longer shouts. It whispers, but this authority is not a trophy to display. It is a responsibility, a holy weight. With it comes a deeper calling. To speak when silence is heavy, to stand when others bow, to protect when compromise would be easier. It is the quiet commission to carry heaven's intent into every space you enter. It demands humility, because power without humility corrodes. It demands vigilance, because the higher you climb, the more carefully the enemy plots. You may not notice the shift at first. A conversation pauses when you walk in. A stranger listens more intently than expected. Opportunities find you without striving. Old friends feel a difference they cannot name. None of this is coincidence. It is the echo of a life aligned with something eternal, a life heaven recognizes and hell cannot ignore. This is the reward of the hidden war, a man whose very presence carries the evidence of victory. He does not need to announce himself because the spiritual realm already has. He does not need to force influence because influence follows him. His authority flows not from status, but from the secret surrender that no one applauded, yet all of creation now respects. And this is only the beginning. True authority is not a destination, but an invitation to live every day as proof of the unseen, to carry a weight of glory that turns ordinary ground into holy ground. To walk through the world is a reminder that sacrifice is never wasted and purity is never forgotten. Authority draws attention. Once a man has conquered the chaos within, he begins to radiate a stillness the world cannot name. People feel it before they see it. Rooms quiet when he enters, not out of fear but from a subtle recognition of something rare. And with that recognition comes a new battlefield, the test of attraction. This trial is unlike the early battles with lust. It does not arrive with obvious temptation or late-night impulses. It appears clothed in timing, charm, and opportunity. When a man's presence carries the weight of heaven, The very energy he guards begins to magnetize everything around him. Women notice it first, not always with conscious desire, but with a quiet wonder. They sense a steadiness that is both ancient and alive, a gravity that asks no permission yet commands respect. But this attraction is not a reward. It is a refining fire. The same spiritual forces that once whispered through screens now walk into rooms wearing perfume and conversation. They know you no longer bow to images or impulses, so they attempt a deeper strategy. They will not tempt your eyes. They will court your confidence. They will suggest that you deserve a little pleasure now, that surely all your discipline must lead to a moment of indulgence. They will come as admiration, as sudden friendship, even as a divine connection. This is where discernment becomes your greatest weapon. Not every beautiful presence is a blessing. Not every opportunity is a door from God. Some are traps designed with exquisite patience. The closer you move toward purpose, the more carefully the counterfeit is crafted. The difference between a true companion and a distraction is rarely obvious at first glance. It is revealed only to a spirit that listens. To withstand this test, you must cultivate the same quiet you once used to conquer lust. Listen more than you speak. Measure not the surface but the substance. Ask yourself, does this connection draw me deeper into alignment with my calling, or does it drain the focus I fought to regain? Those who fail often lose more than momentum. They teach the enemy their weakness, showing exactly where to strike again. But those who endure, those who guard their frame and refuse to trade lasting authority for momentary affection, emerge unshaken. Their very restraint becomes a beacon, drawing not just attention, but respect. Not just admiration, but reverence. And here lies the paradox. The right woman, the rare one destined to walk beside such a man, is never lured by spectacle. She is drawn to the same stillness that others try to disrupt. She prays more than she posts. She honors silence instead of filling it. She sees the glow of holiness and does not try to possess it. Only when the counterfeit has been resisted does the authentic connection reveal itself. If these words speak to the battle you feel inside, leave a single word, focused, in the comments. It is more than engagement. It is a declaration that you will not be moved by flattery or urgency, that you choose purpose over distraction. The man who remains hidden until the right season, who refuses to be swayed by charm or sudden opportunity, becomes untouchable. He does not chase what is next. He embodies what is next. His presence speaks of legacy, not conquest. The test of attraction is the crucible of authority. Pass it and your influence is purified. Fail it and the cycle begins again. But endure with patience, and you will discover that true intimacy was never meant to detour your mission. It was meant to join it, to strengthen it, and to multiply it. Legacy is the silent architecture of eternity. It is the invisible cathedral rising from every unseen decision, every night of prayer no one heard, every temptation resisted when no one was watching. Fame fades, titles crumble, monuments crack, but legacy, true legacy, outlives the man who carries it. It is not a plaque on a wall or a name in a history book. It is the echo of obedience that continues shaping lives long after breath has left the body. The man who carries legacy is not born fully formed. He is forged in obscurity. His journey begins in hidden places where applause cannot follow. He learns early that greatness without holiness is an illusion, that influence without purity will eventually implode. While others chase quick victories, he endures slow refinement. Each moment of restraint, each quiet surrender becomes a brick in an unseen foundation. The world may never know the nights he spent wrestling with God, the mornings he woke with a heart still trembling from the weight of prayer, but heaven records them all. He understands that the victories which matter most are never public. They are private wars against pride, compromise, and distraction. He fights to keep his inner world uncluttered because he knows the mind is the first battlefield of destiny. While others measure success by applause, he measures it by alignment. Before he speaks, he listens. Before he moves, he waits. His greatest ambition is not to be celebrated, but to be trusted with the next instruction from the one who called him. When a man reaches this depth of surrender, something shifts in the atmosphere around him. Opportunity begins to seek him instead of the other way around. People feel a gravity they cannot name. Conversations pause when he enters a room, not because of fear, but because of recognition. Some ancient instinct that whispers, "Here is a man who walks with eternity in his eyes." His presence unsettles the restless and steadies the broken. Without raising his voice, he alters the temperature of every space he inhabits. This authority is not charisma. It cannot be manufactured with charm or strategy. It flows from a life laid down. His silence carries weight because it is full of prayer. His words carry power because they are forged in restraint. When he prays, patterns break. When he speaks, hearts shift. When he merely stands, the atmosphere bends toward truth. People may never understand why, but they sense it. This is someone who belongs to a different order. Carrying legacy demands a careful life. He knows that every decision ripples outward into generations he may never meet. One careless compromise can fracture the architecture he is building. That knowledge does not paralyze him. It focuses him. He chooses relationships with discernment, aware that every bond is a bridge for either blessing or destruction. He speaks with deliberate honesty, guarding his words because he understands they are seeds with eternal consequence. His influence is measured not by numbers, but by impact. Children yet unborn will grow up under skies cleared by his intercession. Communities will find stability because he refused to bow to convenience. His prayers, sometimes only groans in the night, become invisible walls of protection for people who will never know his name. The fragrance of his obedience lingers like incense long after he is gone. He lives with the tension of great responsibility. He feels the pull of destiny in every hour, yet he is not anxious. He walks with an unhurried confidence because he has learned that the pace of heaven is not frantic. He carries within him a different rhythm, as if the heartbeat of eternity has synchronized with his own. He moves with precision, yet without haste, because he knows timing is as holy as truth. Look closely, and you will see that his greatness is not built on grand gestures. It is shaped in the quiet hours when he forgives instead of retaliates, when he serves without recognition, when he protects what is sacred even when it costs him comfort. Legacy is formed in these hidden decisions. The world may call them small. Heaven calls them monumental. This man understands that true intimacy, with God, with purpose, with those entrusted to him, cannot be rushed. He knows that legacy is not about leaving wealth or property, but about depositing wisdom, character, and unshakable faith into those who will follow. His children, whether of blood or of spirit, inherit not only his words but the atmosphere of his life, a house filled with prayer, a lineage marked by clarity, a future safeguarded by sacrifice. He does not broadcast his influence. He does not announce his authority. Legacy is never self-proclaimed. It is recognized by time and sealed by heaven. When he walks through a city, the ground seems quieter beneath his feet. When he prays, unseen chains loosen. When he counsels, hearts align without fully understanding why. He is living proof that one surrendered life can alter the destiny of families, of neighborhoods, of nations, and yet he remains humble. He remembers the nights when loneliness pressed against his chest, when temptation roared like fire, when obedience felt like death. Those memories keep him grounded, a constant reminder that every ounce of authority was purchased through surrender. He does not despise the hidden seasons because he knows they were the furnace of his strength. This is the man who carries legacy, the chosen one whose private victories become public miracles, whose devotion becomes a map for those yet to be born. He is a living witness that purity is not loss, but eternal gain, that sacrifice is never wasted, that a single heart aligned with the divine can leave a mark no darkness can erase. His story is not merely inspiration, it is invitation. It calls every listener to believe that their quiet obedience, their unseen faithfulness, their daily choices can shape futures they will never personally witness. When he finally leaves this earth, there may be no grand monuments or towering statues, but generations will breathe easier, pray deeper, and walk straighter because he once lived. His legacy is the proof that a man who conquers himself becomes a shelter for many, a lighthouse for those still searching, a chapter in the eternal story of redemption. And as heaven receives him, the echo of his life continues, unchained, unending, unstoppable. Power does not remain simply because it was awakened. It remains because it is stewarded. Many begin with fire and end with fumes, not because they lacked calling, but because they lacked rhythm. Authority is not an event, it is a cadence. The next 90 days are not a countdown to pride, but a covenant with purpose. Think of them as a mountain road, not steep enough to break you at once, but winding enough to test your intention at every turn. Each day becomes a step, each step a liturgy, each liturgy a brick in the cathedral of your future. The ascent begins with time, the single resource you can never reclaim. If desire once owned your minutes, now purpose must buy them back. Choose an hour that is not convenient but consecrated, early enough that the world is quiet and your spirit can hear. Guard this hour like a gate through which your day must pass. Do not enter it with noise. Enter it with breath. Let the first voice you hear be the one who called you. Read slowly, pray honestly, sit in silence without rushing to fill it. Do not try to impress God with spiritual choreography. He is not moved by performance. He is moved by presence. Let stillness rebuild the inner scaffolding that lust once corroded. Next, craft boundaries wide enough to live in, but narrow enough to protect you. Boundaries are not walls against life. They are rails on a high bridge. Decide what your eyes will and will not consume before the day tempts you to negotiate. Replace vague intentions with explicit lines. Which apps are deleted for this season? Which websites are blocked? Which hours the phone sleeps in another room? Which conversations you refuse to entertain? Make agreements with your future self while your present self is still sober. Weak moments do not break strong covenants. They test them and prove them. Build holy habits that serve like sentries at your gates. Start with the body, not as an enemy, but as an ally redeemed. Move daily. Choose a simple practice that trains endurance without worshipping aesthetics. A walk that becomes prayer on foot. A run that becomes repentance in motion. Resistance training that teaches your soul to push against invisible weight, even when no one is cheering. Treat sleep as warfare won the night before. Guard the hours when your willpower is the lowest. Make your room an altar of rest, not a theater of distraction. Your pillow can either become an anvil where your mind is hammered by temptation, or a sanctuary where your nervous system remembers peace. Then attend to attention. The mind is a field where seeds fall without asking permission. If you do not sow truth, weeds will volunteer. Establish a rhythm of scripture and truth-telling that outpaces the world's propaganda. Learn to speak to your own soul without flattery and without cruelty. Replace vague shame with precise confession. Replace self-hatred with holy candor. Say aloud what you are resisting and why, not because God needs the information, but because your body needs to hear your spirit lead. Over time, your voice will stop sounding like a defendant's plea and start sounding like a king's decree. As your habits stabilize, cultivate craft and calling. Lust thrives in the vacancy of unassigned hours. Give your day a mission sharp enough to pierce apathy. Work with your hands. Build what can be seen. Study with your mind. Build what can be taught. Mentor someone quietly. Build what can be multiplied. When your energy stops leaking into the void, it asks for a vessel. Give it one. Put your strength to work in projects that require patience, precision, and humility. The tree of legacy grows in the soil of small, repeated obediences that no algorithm applauds. Learn the discipline of holy substitutions. The human heart cannot live on no alone. It needs a better yes. When urges rise like weather, do not merely endure. Redirect. Cold water. Open air. A notebook and pen. Push-ups until the body remembers it belongs to a mission. Worship until your chemistry changes. A call to a trusted brother who answers without judgment and speaks without theatrics. Lust wants isolation and urgency. You disarm it with connection and time. Design these substitutions in advance so you reach for them reflexively, the way a trained hand reaches for a tool in the dark. Surround yourself with silent accountability, not the noise of gossip or performative confession, but the steady presence of men who keep their word. Choose one or two whose eyes carry truth without contempt. Agree on simple signals. A daily check-in with a single number. A quick voice note that says clear or clouded. A weekly call where the purpose is not to relive failure, but to reinforce formation. Accountability is not a courthouse. It is a carpenter's bench. It's where rough edges are sanded, not where souls are sentenced. Expect resistance. Plan for it like weather. Around day 7, boredom knocks. Around day 21, old patterns petition your nerves. Around day 40, you may feel invincible and therefore careless. Around day 60, fatigue can masquerade as balance. Around day 80, the enemy stops shouting and starts negotiating.
Write these mile markers where you can see them.
When the pattern arrives, call it by name. Nothing loses power faster than a lie pronounced in the light. Let your speech mature with your authority. The man who guards his seed must also guard his sentences. Eliminate the vocabulary of defeat. I can't. Replace it with the language of covenant. I choose. I consecrate. I refuse. I return. Words are the reins of the inner horse. Careless speech hands those reins to a stranger. Speak sparingly. Mean fully. Use apologies like medicine, strong, specific, and restorative. Use praise like prophecy, honest, upward, and precise. Use silence as strategy, not to hide sin, but to hold weight. Practice honor in mundane places. Lust trains us to take. Legacy trains us to tend. Wash dishes like a priest tending vessels. Pay bills on time like a king stewarding a realm. Show up when you said you would, even when no one is counting. These motions seem ordinary, but they sculpt an interior architecture where power can safely live. Heaven entrusts more to hands that are faithful with little, because those hands remember that nothing is little when it belongs to God. Relearn joy without dopamine debt. Train your senses to delight in simple goodness, food eaten slowly and shared, laughter that leaves no aftertaste, music that lifts without hijacking, work well done, sunsets that ask nothing but attention. Joy is not a luxury, it is resistance. A man who knows clean joy becomes much harder to bait with counterfeits. His palate changes, his thresholds rise, his hunger finds its true home. Finally, write a rule of life for this season. 2 pages at most, clear enough to keep, flexible enough to adapt. Name your waking time and winding down time. Name your inputs and your abstentions. Name your daily reading, your weekly solitude, your monthly audit with a trusted brother. Name your work focus, your service focus, and the boundary that keeps both from swallowing the soul. Review this rule every 7 days. Adjust it not to soften conviction, but to sharpen obedience. A rule of life is not a cage. It is a trellis on which your strength can climb. At the end of 90 days, do not throw a parade. Throw your crown. Lay it at the feet of the one who walked you up the mountain one ordinary step at a time. Then, quietly, stubbornly, gratefully keep walking. Because the goal of this ascent was never a number on a calendar. It was a name written on your heart, faithful. And faithful men do not retire from consecration. They deepen it. The fire you now carry is not pyrotechnics for public moments. It is hearth fire, steady, generous, warm, and hard to extinguish, around which generations will one day gather and say, here is where our story began to change. The mountain changed you, but the valley will reveal you. Transformation is proven not in rare, heroic moments, but in ordinary hours where no music plays and no spotlight waits. After consecration comes integration, allowing what God did within you to shape how you live among others. Holiness is not withdrawal from life. It is the way you re-enter life, clean, clear, and kind. Integration begins with posture. Walk slow, listen longer than you speak. Let people meet the quiet strength you fought for, not a performance of it. Authority that needs to be announced is not authority, it is anxiety in costume. Your life will speak best when your words are few and your actions are consistent. Pay attention to small promises. Arrive when you said you would. Keep confidences. Repair what you break. These are not distractions from the spiritual life. They are the spiritual life translated into human scale. Next comes service. Power kept for oneself ferments. Power poured out becomes wine. Ask each morning, who can I strengthen today without being seen for it? Carry a bag, cover a shift, share a skill. Pray a private prayer nobody will ever thank you for. The fire you carry is a hearth, not a torch for spectacle. Let it warm rooms, not scorch them. As you serve, your purity becomes safe for others. People rest in your presence because they can feel there is no hidden invoice attached to your kindness. Guard humility like oxygen. You are not the lesson. You are the letter, written by God, read by others. When praise comes, pass it through you quickly, so it does not settle into your bones as entitlement. When criticism comes, sift it for truth, and let the rest fall harmlessly to the ground. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is thinking of yourself less often, so that the mission keeps its center and the king keeps his throne. Sustain clarity with simple practices that fit in small spaces, a minute of stillness before meetings, a breath prayer when stress spikes, a brief walk after difficult conversations to return your nervous system to peace. Treat your attention like currency and spend it where it yields love, wisdom, and craft, not outrage. If your inputs drift, your interior will follow. Bring them back gently, the way you would guide a child crossing a busy street. Choose community over crowds. Find a handful who love the truth more than your image. Sit at tables where you are required to be real. Let brothers ask you the questions that keep your soul honest. Are you tired in a way that sleep cannot fix? Where have you been tempted to hurry the will of God? What secret joy has God given you this week? The man who walks far without companions usually walks crooked without noticing. Return often to gratitude. It is the great equalizer, the ground that keeps kings barefoot. Gratitude rescues you from comparison, resensitizes your heart to small miracles, and turns survival into worship. Write down 3 mercies each evening, something you learned, someone you helped, some beauty you witnessed. Gratitude keeps the channel between heaven and your nervous system open and unblocked. Finally, remember why you climbed at all. Not to become impressive, but to become useful. Not to be admired, but to be aligned. The mark of true ascent is not a louder voice, but a gentler presence. Not larger platforms, but deeper roots. Not more followers, but more faithfulness. When pressure rises and schedules swell, do the simple thing first. Breathe, bless, and begin again. Your life is not a sprint to a finish line. It is a faithful procession, one quiet yes after another, until the city you carry inside begins to appear around you. You do not need to force impact. Be faithful with what is in front of you, and the path will continue to open at the pace of obedience. The same God who met you on the mountain will walk with you through the markets, the hallways, the kitchens, the job sites, the buses, the classrooms, and the late-night living rooms. Keep the fire, share the heat, and stay small enough inside for God to remain large in you. You have walked through hidden wars and quiet victories. You have faced the pull of desire, the fog of distraction, the weight of authority, the crucible of attraction, and the sacred discipline of rhythm. You have learned that purity is not absence, but presence, not repression, but transmutation. And now, standing on the far side of this mountain, you are not the same man who began this path. Legacy is already forming behind you. Every unseen choice, every night of prayer, every boundary drawn in secret is a stone in a bridge that future generations will cross. The world may never know the hours you surrendered, the moments you stayed steady when compromise whispered, but heaven knows. And heaven does not forget. Remember this: the goal was never a perfect record or a number of days. The goal was alignment, to become a vessel strong enough to carry purpose without leaking power, gentle enough to hold influence without crushing it. Your authority now is not something to display. It is something to serve with. Carry it quietly. Let your presence comfort the weary and challenge the restless. Let your silence speak of the one who gave you strength, and as you keep walking, know that the journey is not finished. Every morning will still ask you to choose clarity over chaos, devotion over distraction, love over lust. But you are no longer a man hoping to endure. You are a man who has proven he can. The fire within you no longer burns to destroy. It burns to guide. It is the light by which others will find their way. If this message has stirred something deep in you, if you sense that you are part of this remnant of men being prepared for more, now is the moment to stay connected. Not for algorithms, but for your own soul's reinforcement. Click subscribe and join a brotherhood of those who refuse to settle for ordinary. And when you do, type the word aligned in the comments as a quiet declaration. I choose to keep walking. I choose to keep building. I choose to carry the fire. This is not the end. It is the beginning of a life that speaks even when you are silent. A life where every step becomes a prayer and every breath becomes proof that you were born to be chosen, steady, and eternal.